the leadership of the church, my bishop, and everybody who has been with us in this ministry. It has been a blessing and a rewarding experience. Today, I want us to share briefly, in the interest of time. At times we find things different in our lives, and we always try to look at the source. But today, I want us actually to look at the. Let's just read first. Let's first read in the book of Philippians 4. Philippians 4 was 11 and then 12. I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Then let's also read the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 6. Verse 6. But godliness with contentment is a great gain. For he brought nothing into this world, and you can take nothing out of it. Now, I want us actually to look at this, the issue of contentment. Contentment. And contentment, when we talk about contentment, we are talking about satisfaction, fulfillment, happiness, pleasure, cheerfulness, gladness, comfort, restfulness, well-being, and peace. All that covers contentment. And contentment is an issue that each one of us go through on a day-to-day basis, because we are human beings and there are needs we have in our lives. But now, when Paul was writing this book about contentment, he was actually in prison. And why Paul this time was in prison is because when they were going around with the ministry with Cyrus, they met a girl she was actually like a fortune teller, but she was in the peril of somebody. So she could foretell about the future and all that. So this lady actually called Paul a servant of the Most High God. So Paul and Cyrus prayed for her, and she got healed. But now the master got very offended, and actually they put Paul into prison. So when Paul was writing the issue of contentment, and he said contentment, godliness with contentment is a great gain. He was talking about contentment when he was already in prison. And he was not mourning that he was in prison. You remember even when he was in prison, they were praying, praising, and worshiping until the doors of the prison opened. But then you find that in our day-to-day life, we go through trials and circumstances that we cannot really understand. When Paul was actually talking about contentment in this situation, he had gone through a lot of things. And I want us first to focus, because, we always think that we are always the ones who are disadvantaged. And you forget there are people who are there before us, who actually went through hardship. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 11, I'll read just a bit of it. Let's read from verse 24. This is Paul who is speaking now. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with the rod. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. You see, this is a man who has actually gone through a lot of hardship, a lot of up and downs, but he was writing all this about contentment when actually he had already had this experience and he had all the reasons not to be content. But then you ask yourself, what makes us not be contented? Make us not be contented. Anipatia hii no, forget about it, my brother, my sister. None of us came with anything in this world. Even those who have vehicles, they did not have them. They did not even have a bicycle. If you ask me when I came from Muranga whether I came with a vehicle, I'll tell you I did come with a vehicle, and I was given a lift to Nairobi. So, when I have a vehicle, should I actually be should that vehicle control my life? Do you know there are people who cannot board a matatu because they have a vehicle? Do you know what? Discontentment. Yeah, anaona watu watanifikiria namna gani wakiona nikitoka kwa matatu? Wataniuliza nini? The first time I went home without a vehicle, somebody asked me, kwani umekuja mguu? Chwari. Hata kama nikukuja, kuna mtu anakuja na njia nyingine isipokuwa ya mguu. Curious. So, be contented. If your vehicle broke down, don't go and borrow a vehicle for a brother or sister so that you go wherever you want to go. Board a matatu and go there. Contentment. Where I live, I've seen people pretending a lot. The people actually there, they're okay, I would say, from the base value. But I never see most of them because they know they have gates locked. Mi natoka jia yangu, you only meet when you have meetings at the end of the year. But can I tell you something? That the main gate, you always find around 5 vehicles parked there. Mtu alikuja na gari, hataki kutoka kwa geti yake mguu. Anataka kutoka na gari, aonekana ametoka na gari. Anaenda anapaka hapo, anaingia matatu, anaenda Githurai. Akituka Githurai, anaingia kwa gari yake hapo kwa hiyo main gate. Anaingia sasa ukiona ana drive him back to the resident. People are pretending. People don't want to live the normal life. What is wrong with you leaving a vehicle behind and going wherever you want to go? If you calculated, and don't ask me that because I'm an accountant, if I calculated the fuel I will consume from here to Nairobi and back, and then park fees, and then the risk of somebody coming and removing the mirror, because they'll come and take it, I had better board in a matatu and pay 200 shillings. Even if I sit on 2 seats, I'll be comfortable and I'm not worrying about anything. So don't worry about the basic things you're having God has blessed you with. If today you have God blesses you a vehicle, don't say, I don't want Brother Mushi to meet me in a matatu. Be contented with what you have. If you have to board a matatu, you get done. And get into town, you not worry about parking. You not worry about your driving mirror being stolen by parking boys. You not worry about paying parking fees. I don't know whether it's 200 or 100. Whatever amount, be contented. So material things are actually taking a lot of things in our life. That a brother can lose his faith because of the loss of material things. Somebody did a study and he said, in America, I think 2 or 3 years ago, he said there are around 269 billionaires. But with that kind of broad aspect of people having a lot of money, they say they are hanging themselves because of the things that God has given them. Others are hanging them because a lady said, I will not marry you. The best thing in this life is, what you cannot get, it is not yours. Forget that you ever have it. But if you need it, trust God for it. But don't put your focus on issues that actually will trouble your heart, because you'll be discontented. There is also relationship discontentment, where people, friends, spouse, workmates, at times they are not, they are against you. Maybe you got a salary increase, people start saying, oh, you're being favored, or this or the other. Relational discontentment is actually affecting a lot of families nowadays. A lot. Others are pretending what they are, and they are not that person. I saw in a social media, where somebody, one of the actors, aliweka 3 million kwa kitanda yake. He's single, by the way, yeah? And most of these people who have money, they want to remain single because they want freedom. That's what they're saying. Not me, because me, I'm married. Aliweka pesa kwa kitanda, akapiga picha. Akatuma to friends. This is my 3 million. Have a look at it in my bed. Surely, even if you have money, why tell us you have money? It is your money. But he wanted to create an impression that he has crossed the river of poverty. Did that add value to him? It did not. Who is worried about his money? Why is he telling us about his money? How many people have you even seen posting in social media? Ati ameingia kwa ndege na kwa Mombasa kwa beach. We don't know whether it's a public beach or a hotel beach. Na anapiga hiyo picha anatuma kwa friends. Sasa unasikia wanasema, wapa joro. Uliona Jane alikuwa Mombasa na bwana yake? Which Mombasa? You know, you can board a matatu here and go to Mombasa and go to a public beach. Na upigwa picha tu useme niko Mombasa. Then you want to create an impression. Why people are discontented? Why would you compare yourself with somebody else? Because you saw Joro alienda Mombasa, hata wewe unataka kwenda Mombasa. You don't have to do that. Now, we have people who are discontented because they are comparing themselves with others. And the Bible actually tells us in the 2 Corinthians 10, verse 12, don't compare yourself with others. Because when you compare yourself with others, you make yourself look better or worse. When I compare myself, I think I have this and the other, I would say, I'll be content. I would say, oh, me, I'm better than X because I have this. Don't compare yourself with that, with the others. The other thing that's bringing discontent in the families and even in setups is bitterness, envy, and selfishness. Unaona mtu mwingine akona kitu fulani na hiyo, that has been your dream to have it and you don't have it. Unaona brother fulani akona big business, you become now, you are not comfortable because you don't have it. And it is not yours. So, we have to learn to be contented in every situation in life. Remember Cain and Abel. Why did Cain kill his brother? He killed his brother because of envy. That God talked favorably about the offerings that Abel gave. So his brother became envious. He was discontented about how God would favor his brother. And he killed his brother. Discontentment. Those who are discontented are restless and never get enough. Have I seen people who never get enough? They never get enough. If it's a family, you want to have, I don't know how many families. Come on, he want to have, I don't know how many vehicles. You can only drive one vehicle. And then even if I drive my small Toyota, from here to Nakuru, now I drive whichever vehicle you are driving, tukifika huko, tutake tu, hakuna mtu atajua kama mimi nikuja a small vehicle or big vehicle. No. So be contented with what God has given you. Otherwise, you will never have enough. I've seen people, because I work in the hotel industry, who in one sitting, they'll drink beer. Not beer actually, beverages worth over 200,000. Watu waine. So each one of them, 50K. Na asubuhi wanaamuka, they are checking out as if nothing has happened. You see them carrying their bag. Oh, how did you sleep? Oh, those guys have spent 200,000. When I used to drink beer that time, it was costing 10 bob. And I could hardly spend even 50 bob. 10 bob. So, when these guys come and take the high end, beverages, the higher beverages, the whiskeys of this world. Name them. A tot goes for 7,000 shillings. I don't know how many how much that one, but it's very true. Hiyo anataka kuweka kwa mdomo tu, mara moja tu hivyo umemeza. But those guys who take those expensive drinks and the following day they are the same. You ask yourself. In fact, one day I encountered one and asked him, what is the difference? Because me, I have never taken whiskey. What is the difference between this? One of them was taking King George, the other one was taking another one called Glenfiddich, 18 years. I asked him, what is the difference? I'm going to be a Julius. It is the way it flows here. Wakati amemeza ikipita hapa tunasikiaga. It is the way it flows. He was very happy to explain to me. But my brother and sister, the end result of this man who is taking that, the one who is taking Changa, you want to get drunk. That's it. But he's spending 200,000 in one night. Now, you know, when you look at Paul's contentment, it was not based on personal gains. It was based on his relationship with Jesus Christ. Full stop. Sio hata kitu alikuwa nacho. Sio ile mali alikuwa nayo. Sio ile jina alikuwa nayo. His contentment was based on his personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was the center of Paul's life. Center. Center means he's there and he's the controller of your life. If it was otherwise, Paul would have been in a different person. Let's look at how to be contented. How can you be contented in your life, in your business? You know, even business, you compare yourself with a brother who has a business and another, and you think he's doing better than you, and you think you could be better if you did this or the other. Or you have a family, you think your children, they could have been better if you married somebody else, not the one you have. That's discontentment. It comes from the mindset here. That is the life I wanted, but it did not happen. It did not happen. So I want you to be contented in everything that God gives you. I know at times are hard. Maybe the things you used to enjoy before Corona, you don't enjoy them. Maybe there's somebody here who has an issue with the rent. There's somebody here who has an issue with school fees. All those things are needs that, you know, the Bible tells us in Matthew 6 that birds of the air, they don't worry about where to sleep. They don't worry where to eat. They don't harvest and they don't store. Birds of the air, they don't. So can you take that example of birds of the air that you don't? Somebody told me, you know, there was a time I was in a lot of trouble. You know, I had lost a job, I had a loan and all this. My daughter actually at that time was in class 8. Now I was thinking about Form 1 and all that. That's almost 10 years ago. But then, someone told me, Julius, you know, in this life, it's always good to have a little bit of don't care attitude. Don't lose your sleep because you don't have this. Don't lose your sleep because your daughter does not have fees. Don't lose your sleep because of this and the other one. Be contented. Because there are many people who are actually they have high blood pressure. Wanafikiria tu mashida. Muda wa miaka 20, unaona blood pressure inakuwa 160 by 90. Muda wa miaka 20. Can you remember when you are 20? Would you worry about anything? 20. I've seen them. Nasikia mtu anasema, oh, she's not even married. Na blood pressure imekuwa 160 iko juu sana. Now, contentment, it means that you rely on God's providence. You rely on God's providence. You know, Mr. Stewart today taught us very powerful in the morning about Joseph. Those who are not there, you missed it. And that's one of my examples about somebody who was contented. Joseph. If you read the book of Genesis, that 7 to 50, it talks about Joseph. The way he was put in the pit, And the way he was removed, na wakati alikuwa kwa Potiphar. But one thing that surprises me about Joseph, the Bible says, even when he was in prison, the Lord was with Joseph. In prison, Mungu alikuwa na yeye. Wewe unaona jamaa tu anatembea hapa tu unafikiri ni jamaa kawaida. No. The Lord was with Moses and with Joseph. And even when it reached a situation that his father died and his brothers felt that they were unsafe with him, he told them in Genesis 50:21, you intended harm for me, but God intended for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of my families. So Joseph's story was not a series of accidents, but it was a series of divine appointment. Don't think that Joseph will be kwa shimo, it was an accident. No, it was divinely done by God. When we talk about divine providence, we are talking about the care and the guardianship that comes from God. So, relying on God's providence. Don't worry about the things that you don't have. Don't worry about the things that are troubling you. Don't worry about this or the other. Even children by nowadays are putting parents under pressure. Unapeleka mtoto shule, unampeleka, particularly those who are in the university, because I can tell you that because I have an experience. Unampeleka hostel. Hello daddy. Mimi sitaki kukaa kwa hii hostel. Chakula ni mbaya. Sasa. And you are not proud that a child would be staying alone. There is an age you will not trust your daughter or son to akae peke yake. And as a father, you put your foot down. The someone, no. But they put people pressure. That didn't mean sitaki kukaa hapa. That didn't mean sitaki kufanya here and on the other. But that is the way children are nowadays. The .com children, you have to sit with them and understand. At times you have to tell them, this is the money I have, and this is what I can be able to do for you. If you are not able to settle for that, then move on. You tell him move on, because you will not go and steal to make your child happy. Hutaenda kufanya yale you are not decided to do so that you can make your child happy. They have their own life as well. Even educating a child to university is a sacrifice. If ukichukua kalamu hivi tu, you hesabu pesa ya university, pesa ya secondary, it will be over 1 million. It's only that you don't spend in one go. It will be over 1 million, I'm telling you that. So, but there are children who will never be contented. Hata ukimpatia hii, they will not be contented. Ukimunulia hii, hatakuwa contented. There was a time I used to buy clothes for my children. Siku moja nikanunua Christmas. Nikanunulia kila mtu yake. Wachukue, nikaweka hapo wakachukue. I used to buy all the Christmases, even the ones I have adopted. So, siku moja nikaona mwingine, wakati wale wengine wamechukua zao wakicheka wakifurahia, akarudi nyuma akaniambia, "Daddy, mimi sipendi." Sasa, I'm sacrificing and then you tell me that you pendi. But that time I learned something. I'll never buy anything for a child. I'll give them money to go and buy. And the moment I made that decision, I budget for this and give each one of them. Take your money, whether you buy at mini supermarket, or whatever, that is your choice. So that created equity. And nobody has ever come back to tell me that I didn't want this. Because now he buys what he wants. Whether it will be undersized or oversized, that is his own problem. Because at times wanaenda wananunua, utakuta mtu amenunua kitu imefinya. And now hawezi rudisha. That's the life we are living. And if you are living with teenagers, they can put pressure on you. You have to stand on your own foot at times. Now, the other thing you need to know, relying on the presence of God. If you want contentment, rely on the presence of God. Ata Mungu anakuwa na wewe every time you go. A sister here gave a testimony about where she was working and people who are fighting you. Do you know people who fight you, they don't tell you they are fighting you? Watakuja, sasa Julius, sasa mambo. But behind it, they are scheming. They are scheming. And if you are in employment, you know that. If you have never had an experience, then wait for it. It's part of the journey. It's part of the journey. And there's a time you find people who are trying to take you around. You know, when I was working, my first job in the hotel industry, Jamari Kuja, and I can't remember. That was my first car. Alikuja, when I parked the vehicle, akakuja akazunguka hiyo gari. Anaitwa gari. Sasa gari ya utanunua. Wherever Curious. I had a very serious. What happened? Then he narrated. And then I remember, this is the guy I was told. So, if you are in work environment, you know people will fight you, whether you like them or whether they like you or hate you. But as long as you hang with the word of God, even in business, as long as you hang with the heart of God, you see the victory. So don't fight your battles. Let God fight for you. Ask for God's presence in everything that you do. You know, in Hebrews 13, verse 5, the Bible actually talks between verse 5 and 6. I will never leave you, I will never forsake you. Never leave you, nor forsake you. So when you are in that battlefield, remember that. God says, He will never leave you, He will never forsake you. There is somebody who wrote, he said something here, I think, which is critical. He was called Warren Westbound. He said, contentment is not an escape from the battle, but rather an abiding peace and confidence in the midst of the battle. Contentment is not an escape from the battle. So you are still in the battlefield all the time, but an abiding peace and confidence in the midst of that battle. So whichever battle you are in now, be contented. Don't say Mungu amekusahau. Mungu hajakusahau. There's a way that God works for you. Even when you're in that battle, God is working with you. You will not leave the battlefield. That's because you are you're not contented. Be in the battlefield. 2 weeks ago, the last Sunday I was here, I passed it there. Then there was a young man. He has a God, and I left it to God. So, you know, there are times that the devil provokes you so that you fight back. But never fight back, because there's a God in heaven. There's a God in heaven. He fights your battles. Be contented with what God has given you. And give thanks to God for what He has given you. And I want to tell you something. And I'm not biased. If there's anything you need to learn about giving thanks, see Brother Karanja. Here. I've been in this ministry since 2007. And Karanja comes here and gives thanks. Get him to habit. Get him to teach you about giving thanks. Because there are people who never get contented because they don't give thanks. Mungu akibariki, kuja rudishia Mungu shukurani. Mtoto akimaliza form 4, rudishia Mungu shukurani. Mtoto akimaliza university, rudishia Mungu shukurani. Our brother will teach you something. And I've always been asking myself, I cannot copy him. And you might think he has a lot of money. But that is a teaching that he has in his heart. It's a teaching he has in his heart. And that is teaching him, Barakaranja, one of these day teachers. Because we need that teaching. We need that anointing as well. That even Christmas, unakuja na watoto wake, wanasimama, wana give thanks. Give thanks for what God has given you, the blessing that God has given you, the free air you are breathing right now. Give thanks and you'll be contented. People who are not contented, they never give thanks. At give thanks for what? At give thanks for that. Be contented. Now, we are almost finishing. We talked about the presence of God. That's why we are. You look also at the Exodus 33, verse 14 and 15. Moses asked for the presence of God. Moses asked, you know who is Moses? Moses is a man who talked to God face to face. Now akamwambia, if you are not going with us, if your presence will not go with us, we will not go. Mtu anajua Mungu sawa sawa kabisa. A person who has talked to God face to face, and he's asking for the presence of God. If you want to be contented, ask for the presence of God. Because the presence of God will make a difference in your life. You read Exodus, let me just read that because it's important. Exodus 33. The Lord replied, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. When we are defining contentment, we talked about rest. Rest. So when God tells Moses, my presence will go with you and I'll give you rest. Then Moses said to him, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us from here. So what you require in your life, in a day-to-day operations of your life, the presence of God will give you rest. It will give you contentment. That hata kitu kikiingia, kitu unafikiria, you cannot handle it. Ask for the presence of God, and God will do Almighty with you. And then the last one, rely on the power of God. Power of God. In Philippians 4, verse 13, it says, He's one who gives you. I can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. That is what you require. Strength is power. And without God, you can do nothing. Without God, you can do nothing. The presence of God is all what you require. His power, His providence, His promises in your life, and He gives you rest. Unapumzika. You reach a stage in life, children are out of school, you are working, you're there with your wife, and maybe once in a while grandchildren, you have rest. You'll be contented that you have done your role in this world. And that's the dream of every parent under the sun. But you cannot get contentment unless you have perseverance. Perseverance. Last Sunday, we had Nakuru Marathon. Maybe you saw it in the newspaper. And by the way, Nakuru has been elevated to a city. And that is my city, not resident, my city where I work. So last Sunday, we are requested to send some people to represent the hotel in Marathon. There was 21 kilometers, 10 and 5. I registered for 10 kilometers. And the last time I ran 10 kilometers, I was in high school. Those are many years back. Over 30 years ago. So I recorded. And I said I'll do it. Not through my strength, because I didn't even have time to practice. I could walk from my place of work to Nakuru town and back every evening. That's around 2 kilometers. And they said that is enough exercise. So on Sunday, we ran. 10 kilometers is not that, it's like actually from Raisabu to town, if not more. That's a distance. And now, what I didn't know is that since I haven't run for a long time, I didn't know that you have to wear fitting shoes. The rubber shoes I had were not fitting. Nikafika pahali, ile kidole, the toe, ikakuwa inaniumisha sana. But I said, I'll persevere. Nikaenda saa ingine nikatembea kidogo. Because I said, I will finish and I must finish. But by the grace of God, even without pain, hata saa kidole yangu iko na shida tu kidogo. But I thank God, because at least I ran, and everybody thought, na nilikuwa na picha pale mwingine anasema, habari ya baba! Anaona? Then I said to myself, I'm not the only baba, hapa. Because I remember when we are starting, the owner of Nini, it's called what? So Waterback, Midrand. He's an elderly man actually, he's a Kalenjin. We started with him in the race. And he's older than me. So I said, kama umzee anarun na mimi, hata wakiniita baba mimi nitaendelea. So I finished. The number one, I finished with 28 minutes, 53 seconds. And I finished with 50 minutes. So I was just a few minutes behind him. I finished. Alikuwa wengine ni vijana huko wananiambia sasa dadi, wananiita dadi. Sasa dadi, tulikuwa tunafikiri hutamaliza. But I'm telling you, the journey was not easy. I had to persevere. I had to bear with that pain. I had to say, I'll move on. Why I'm giving you that example? Well, because when I was reading this verse, I remembered what I went through. And I remembered I did not have to give up. But I finished. And I finished below 1 hour, which is okay for me. For somebody who hasn't run for a long time. So, it is good that we conclude that we learn to be contented and we learn to be Christians who walk the talk. Sio ate wewe ni mtu wa encourage other people, but behind the scene wewe ni mtu wa machozi. Behind the scene you are discontented. Behind the scene you are complaining about children. You are complaining about your husband. You are complaining about your wife. You are complaining about anything under the sun. What do you want? What do you want? Learn never to complain. Learn to be contented, and God is going to work miraculously in your life. I'm done, Pastor. Thank you so much.
Tunafanya kazi kwa mawasiliano na si ni vizuri. Ninapenda kushukuru sana kwa mafundisho. Kwa Kiswahili nasema kuridhika na utaua. Kuridhika na utaua, hiyo ndio utajiri mkubwa. Bwana asifiwe. Maana watu wengi hawaridhiki. Na kama hutaridhika inakuwa mbaya sana. Mimi huenda ng'ambo, si ni kweli? Na huwa ninaenda state nyingi, na ninakutana na watu wengi, hata wakubwa sana huko. Lakini hata huwa nasema, nikiwa kwa ndege, simu ni ya nini nipige picha, alafu nitumie watu? Mimi naona watu wanatoka hapa wanaenda Kitengera. Kitengera kuko na ndege inakaa hapo na haiendage. Sijui kama mnaijua. Wanaenda wanapigwa picha na wanatumia Sasa nini ya nini hiyo? Bwana asifiwe. Mungu anaweza kukupeleka mahali kulingana na roho yako vile uko. Na sijui hata mimi niko nasema ni ujinga niko naye ama ni nini? Hata nilienda huko kunaitwaje kule ninawaambiaga kule California. Disney World. Na Disney World hata wazungu wenyewe wakisikia umeenda huko wanakuheshimu. Nililipua na mzungu mwingine hapo mtajiri sana. Na wakaniuliza ni nini tungetaka tusaidiwe. Nikamwambia sisi tuko na kila kitu. Mimi sikukuja hapa kuomba usaidizi. Sasa bado nakaa nasema mimi ndio mjinga ama ni nini? Sijui nimemwamini Mungu na nimeona Mungu akifanya mambo, akitengeneza njia mahali hakuna njia. Bwana asifiwe. Ni pia nataka kushukuru Mungu sana kwa sababu ya hiyo karanja ameambiwa. Mimi mara nyingine wakati wa sikukuu ninakaa kwa nyumba nyingi sana. Kwa sababu unajua ukiwa na mambo mingi unafikiria mambo ya chachu, unafikiria mambo gani. Sasa unaona, lakini kila wakati every Christmas karanja lazima aniambie mama, hii ni Christmas yako na hii ni Thanksgiving. Nataka tu niulize, wewe utamuombea ama hutaomba? Na si hata kama uliagi si utalia, kwa sababu umeona huyu mtu amekukumbuka na Christmas. Sijipigii debe, lakini ni kusema ninasema kulingana na vile amehubiri. Si kwamba anakuaga na nyingi kuliko kila mtu hapa. Hapana, si ndio? Lakini kuna wengine unakuta mtu ananiletea 100, anasema nimesikia hii 100 ni yako ya Christmas. Yaani hiyo kitu inaniguza, na mwambia Mungu, hakika wewe Mungu ni Mungu mzuri. Na Bwana awabariki wote. Hata wale hawakujua kama nahitaji Christmas, mjue mimi ni mtu na nini. Bwana asifiwe. Na kwa hivyo sasa nitaangalia bahasa ya Christmas ya free offering, nione kama tariki 19 tutakuwa tuko hapa, tunapikaga chakula, tunakuwa na wakati wa kumsifu Mungu, tunakuwa na wakati wa kuambia tumeendelea wapi. Lakini last time haikufanyika, imagine. Bwana asifiwe. Hatukukuwa na hiyo kitu, lakini mwaka huu Bwana ametubariki. Hiyo ni ya kwanza. Ya pili, kuna mtu anaitwa Michael. Anaitwa Michael Muguro. Michael Muguro yuko? Simama. Huyu ni ni ndugu yetu amekaa hapa na ni fundi wa viatu na amepoteza mzazi. Sasa atatuambia ni lini mazishi. Friday. Basi. Sasa vile tunafanyaga kwa kila groups, si tutafanya hivyo. Sawa sawa Michael. Haya, tuko na dada wetu. Alipoteza baba yake. Amesikia joto sana. Amepoteza baba yake na tukaona kwa muda mrefu hakukuwa yuko hapa, na tulionana na yeye kwa sababu ni wakati ule ambao gari ilikuwa imeharibika, gari yangu ikawa kabisa haina milango na singeweza kuiacha na sikuweza kwenda, na nilikuwa sikusikia vizuri maana nilitamani, na akaniambia mimi mama, mimi ni wa Glory Christian Church, mimi ni wa Glory Christian Church, na nilimpatia kitu kasoda kidogo ya kumpoesha. Sasa ako pamoja nasi, nataka pia tumnunulie soda leo, ni sawa? Mama Esther kuja, chukua hiyo, mpatie hiyo kipasa sauti. Kuja Mama Esther, ndio mumuone kwa sababu wengi hawamjui. Kuja.
Nilikuwa na joke sana na dad. Nikamwambia dad, wewe kula ile kaugali umezoea kukula, ndio at least ndio unakunywa ndawa. Akaniambia, unajua wewe ni msichana wangu na mimi nimeishi kukuambia ile wakati utasikia mimi nimeshindwa na kukula, unajua sasa wakati wangu umekaribia. Nikamwambia dad, hakuna mahali unaenda. So ile neno tu aliniachia. Aliniambia tu the phrase yenye inasemanga tumtumainie Bwana kwa kila hali. Tuishi kwa Bwana na tumtumainie Bwana, ni kwa maana